Welcome to part 1 of session 8, where we're going to be exploring mindfulness and anxiety. Now, it's one of the common goals for mindfulness is to help reduce our anxiety. And certainly it's true that having the open awareness of the present can reduce our anxiety's obsession with the future and what might or might not happen, and can also reduce our racing and spinning feelings that are often associated with anxiety. So the goal for this session is to understand what anxiety is and what it isn't. We're going to notice how it manifests in bodily sensations or different types of emotions or specific thought patterns that you may have. And we're going to practice various gentle and compassionate methods to learn how to manage our anxiety. So let's get going. As usual, we'll begin by reminding ourselves, what is mindfulness? So what is mindfulness? This is the definition we've been using throughout this course. Mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. And we've flushed out 3 key concepts of this definition, and that is paying attention deliberately, that we're being in the present moment and not disappearing off into the future or the past, and we're being non-judgmental about what we observe. So let's move on and have a look at this in connection with anxiety. So anxiety could be defined as an intense, excessive and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. And here's a definition from Tanya J. Peterson, that anxiety is an ogre that lives inside us and blocks us from fully living the life we want to live. And certainly anxiety can impede our performance. It can impact on our relationships. And in this session we're going to be exploring what anxiety looks like and feels like. And then we'll offer mindfulness tools to help us build resilience to anxiety and also to learn how to manage it should it arise. So let's take a further look at anxiety and how it impacts us. So we're going to do a bit of an anxiety brainstorm. Now, anxiety in and of itself isn't necessarily bad. Pretty much everyone feels anxious from time to time. It's the obsessive nature of anxiety that can create problems. So what thoughts do you associate with anxiety? What emotions do you associate with anxiety? And what physical sensations do you associate with anxiety? So anxiety can actually have a positive aspect. It helps keep us vigilant and safe, and it keeps us observant of what's going on in and around us. It becomes unhealthy when feelings become overwhelming or the anxiety becomes excessive and debilitating. Now let's explore further exactly what anxiety is and to some extent what it isn't and what we can confuse it with. So fear and anxiety, these are very closely related but have certain differences that are quite important. So a fear of present danger or a threat. Anxiety is often about the past or the future. Fear can be a rational response to what we're observing in the outside world. Maybe we're right to be afraid. Maybe we should be afraid. Whereas anxiety is irrational. It's an internal response with no current threat. Now, fear can be reacted to immediately because it is a present moment issue that we're looking to deal with, whereas anxiety is just a vague distress with no immediate response. So let's pause for a moment and just think about these. The big difference between fear and anxiety is very much about whether it's in present time, whether it's a real and present threat, or whether it's just something that's going on in our mind. And we can also see that fear is actually useful and an important quality to have, keeps us alive, keeps us safe, whereas anxiety often isn't. So let's move on and explore this theory of anxiety a little bit further. So worry and anxiety. We're going to distinguish between worry and anxiety. Worry, like fear, has its uses. It can help us to see potential problems. It can allow us to express our concerns. And it helps us in finding solutions. Now, worry turns to anxiety when it becomes unmanageable, when it begins to negatively impact our thoughts, the way we feel or how we behave, and it can impact our general health as well. Now, often worries appear in the form of what-if questions. So let's have a look at some of these and what they could be. Here's a classic example from our work environment. What if I don't get this work done? Or what if I don't get this work done on schedule, etc. If you're traveling, you've probably experienced this one. What if I miss my flight? What if the train's delayed or taxi's delayed that's going to get me there, and so on? What if you get sick? That could be a loved one that we're worried about. What if we don't have enough in savings? Classic concern about the financial future. What if I fail the test? Anxiety around tests and worry around tests is pretty normal. What if we have to move? Could be a response to an external event, something that's influencing us, that we'd have no control over. And what if she gets laid off? Again, the financial impact of someone losing their job, and so on. What if the car breaks down? Now, worry, anxiety, and rumination involve irrational thinking and fears. Often they cannot be prevented, or we simply can't predict them. They're often very unlikely to actually happen in the real world. And the key factor is that we lack any substantial evidence that they're going to happen. So you may want to pause the video and contemplate these. Maybe you have your own favourite what if phrase that's bugging you at the moment. In a short while we'll be going into our first guided practice. We'll be rating anxiety in the body. Okay, welcome to our first guided practice for this session. And the purpose of it is to enhance our awareness of anxiety and resilience to it with mindfulness. We're going to be focusing our senses on the present moment and to move away from future worries. As with all our guided practices, please make sure you can give it your full attention. Sit upright in the chair with your hips 2 to 3 inches above the level of your knees. Have your feet flat on the floor. You can rest your hands on your lap, but don't interlock your fingers. Close your eyes if you want to, else just have a soft downward gaze. And without changing it, become aware of your breath as it rolls in and rolls out again. So in this session, we're going to be learning to face our anxiety through bodily awareness. So what I'd like you to do is bring to mind a situation that is causing you anxiety at the moment. It could be a fear, an uncertainty, a person or a place, but make sure it's not too overwhelming for you. Look it over and examine what is the source of this anxiety, and then verbalize it. And here are some examples that might fit. There is an anxiety about financial security. There's an anxiety about a relationship ending. There's an anxiety about succeeding in work. There's an anxiety about speaking in front of others. There's an anxiety about receiving what I need. And just take a moment to verbalize the source of your anxiety. What's its characteristics and so on. Now bring your attention to your feet, feeling nice and grounded. And I'd like you to take 3 deep breaths. And gently scan your body for physical sensations of anxiety. The head, face and neck, shoulders, arms, your chest and belly, the lower body, your legs and feet. Identify any sensations you find. It could be cold or tingling, hot or numbness. What name do you give it? And rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is not very much and 10 is quite strong. Now focus your attention on the most prominent sensation and breathe into that part of the body. Inhale and nourish the body part. And as you exhale, soften the anxiety. Breathe in calm. And as you breathe out, release and let go. And if there's another part of your body, just repeat the process. Inhale to nourish that body part. Exhale to soften the anxiety. Breathe in calm, calm energy. And breathe out, releasing and letting go. And you can repeat that for any other parts of your body registering anxiety. And let go of anything you had brought to mind, any situations or whatever. As we draw this practice to a close, become aware of your feet on the floor and the chair you're sitting in. Wiggle your fingers and take 2 or 3 deep breaths. If your eyes are closed, it's a good time to open them and become aware of your environment. So let's reflect. Reflect on the practice we've just done. So where in your body does anxiety arise for you? And compared to past practices, how is anxiety similar and different from other difficult emotions we've worked with? So you may want to pause the video and reflect on these questions. Perhaps you'd like to journal them as well. That's entirely up to you. Before we move on and take a further look at anxiety. So anxiety triggers. We're going to be examining certain triggers that might arise because of certain situations, and any additional triggers that can set off anxiety in those areas. By identifying triggers, we can help to stop worry and anxiety before it even starts. So we're going to begin by writing a list of our most prevalent anxieties. When you've got the list ready, and I'll give you a few moments to journal those, or you may want to pause the video if you've got a long list. We're going to journal some answers to these anxiety triggers. See if they're related to any specific people or specific situations, such as work or home or whatever. And do they tend to focus on specific issues? Maybe the financial issues. Maybe it's relationship issues. And choose one of the most significant sources of anxiety to you. And be quite specific about it, such as disagreeing with my boss at work, or traffic making me late, or large social gatherings, or bullies at school. And then we're going to identify the triggers that remind you of this worry. So what is it that reminds you of this anxiety? Are there any specific objects? Is it what someone says? Are there sounds in the environment or memories which float to the surface or whatever? Is it specific people? Maybe it's an expression on their face. And at what time of day does this anxiety peak? Maybe it's in the evening when you're going to sleep, or first thing in the morning when you wake up. Maybe it's when you have a quiet time during your day or whatever. Maybe it's going into work, who knows? Think about, is there a specific time of day when this anxiety peaks? And then consider what makes this anxiety worse. Have you got any habitual responses to this kind of anxiety? Do you do certain things? Do you have any coping mechanisms in place? Do you go to a specific place or do certain things? So I suggest you spend time going through this list and considering the questions on it. This brings to an end part 1 of this session, and I look forward to joining you in our next session together, where we'll continue to explore anxiety and how to manage it.